Hello everyone, Neil Patel here. Thank you for downloading the last episode of the Indian Startup Show for 2018. And we have a very special one for you today. I speak to Siraj Raval. He's the director of the School of AI, YouTube personality and best-selling author. In this exciting episode, he talks about how it all got started, why AI, interesting things going on in China. He takes a look back at 2018 and talks about his plans for 2019. He talks about speaking at the United Nations, being happy, life hacks, and the one thing you should do after listening to this podcast episode, and much, much, much more. So please enjoy the show and speak to you in 2019. Hello, Siraj. Thank you for coming on the Indian Startup Show today.
Sure. Thanks for the invite.
Please tell listeners what you're building.
Right now, I'm building a school, an online school called School of AI, and that's what I'm building so far.
Excellent. Okay. And where did you get the idea from?
The idea came from... It's a good question. I mean, it's kind of many iterations to get there. Mm-hmm. It starts with YouTube and wanting to make videos there, which was to teach people, because I felt like that was a skill that I had that I should utilize for other people.
Yeah.
And then the school kind of snowballed. It kind of snowballed into a school.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And how are things going? Can you share some stats?
So far, we have... So in terms of like the amount of students, if we use my social channels, then we have maybe like 550K so far. Mm-hmm. And then we have city leaders that are ambassadors in over 400 cities.
Okay.
And I think that's a good number.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good number, that, yeah. And why particularly AI?
Well, there's a lot of hard problems in the world that are... it's unlikely that we'll be able to solve them without these tools, just because they're just far too difficult. It would take us far too long, and there's a deadline. So one obvious example is climate change. But if we use these tools, then we can speed up that process by orders of magnitude. So for something like climate change, we just had a research fellow at School of AI that we funded. He just published a paper on reducing CO2 emissions using a technology called multi-agent cooperative learning. It's quite a mouthful, but it's it's one of these cutting-edge techniques that, if we apply it to these problems, we can come up with some pretty unique and novel solutions.
Excellent. Okay. And what plans do you have for the future for the School of AI?
We would like to keep growing our audience base, so just increasing the reach of our distribution channels. And also, I'd like to have more instructors on board. So that's a gradual process. And we're just trying to shift. We're trying to shift consciousness. We're trying to shift culture in a direction that makes these technologies not just relevant, but something that is considered to be a priority for the youth of the world and everybody, but really making sure that this is something that is as mainstream or popular as, music or listening to your favorite band or,
Yeah, cool, good stuff. Obviously, some people have fears over AI. What's your opinion?
I'm not afraid of AI. AI is a set of math equations. And that it's a very abstract concept. So I'm not afraid of AI. I mean, I've read Superintelligence by Bostrom. I'm very, very familiar with all the different talking heads in the space. But yeah, I'm not afraid of AI, but I am afraid of human beings.
Okay. All right. I think we all are, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a tool. It's like fire. It can burn us or give us warmth, and it really depends on the people using it, what they decide to do with it.
Yeah, you mentioned YouTube. Obviously, you've got must be about 500,000 subscribers. One of my favorite videos is the AI in China video.
Oh, nice! Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
The news AI anchor.
Yeah,
talk about that.
Yeah, so that video was like, man, I feel so good about that video because it wasn't like a straight up tutorial like my other videos. It was like kind of a reach for me to make a video that was like even slightly political, but it turned out like there was a need for that just because it's it's such an interesting topic, and there's not a lot of coverage on that from a Western, not even just Western, just outside of Chinese, perspective. I really tried to fit everything into that video, just because I've become kind of like this Chinese culture enthusiast just from making that video, like learning so much about it. It really shifted my perspective on, things being so binary, like China's government is authoritarian, therefore it's bad. But from a strictly utilitarian perspective, putting aside politics, just looking at the data, they might be the most efficient government in the world. They are lifting hundreds of millions of people out of abject poverty. So that alone is incredible. So yeah, I'm not so much like, oh yeah, human rights violations, China's terrible. I'm more like, this is something that we should pay attention to. And, if we extrapolate into the future, with gene enhancement, which is fast becoming a reality, we in the West, we have different ways of coming to consensus on whether or not that's morally acceptable, or the ethics of the issue of genetic enhancement. But I promise you that the Chinese don't care about that. They're more about just, what can we do to have an edge? How can we increase the wealth and prosperity of our nation? And it's not a huge. I don't think it's really out there to just say that in 10 or 20 years we could start seeing a generation of superhuman Chinese babies, or whatever country does this, that's smarter than Einstein, faster than Usain Bolt, more beautiful than whoever. And so that would fast become a reality, and that's really an extrapolation of what we're already doing digitally with our technology. Like these technologies like AI and blockchain and quantum, they're really just extending our ability, and the next step is to physically extend our capabilities. And I think that the way things are going right now, the Chinese are going to be on the forefront of that, but I hope that it's more evenly distributed across the world.
And what kind of feedback did you get on that particular video?
It's a wide range of feedback, but overall, it's like, this is interesting. Make more like this. It made me very happy to hear that, because I also really enjoyed making that video more than just like generic tutorials, which I do a lot of. But yeah, overall, and that's also like, don't talk about politics as well. But so,
especially on the internet.
Yeah. So as an Indian and as an American, and just someone who grew up in Houston, parents from India, it's like, I'm not trying to like ruffle any feathers. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. I'm just trying to grow my brand and grow the brand of School of AI. So that's why I stay out of politics. But this was a particular case of, I see a way to comment on something that's relevant to my field of expertise. So I think that there might be some kind of path there to get into a position where I can help influence the direction of, it's kind of reach to say this, but help influence the direction of some world governments, from some nation states. I think that would, to make sure that AI benefits people in a very broad way, in a very in a democratized way.
Yeah, well said. I believe you did a talk at the United Nations as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that was so cool. That was super cool in New York. Just anything having to do with international diplomacy is like that would be the greatest dream come true for me. And probably, I'm only 27, but we'll see how things go. I would love to just explore that field more, just working with different cultures and coming to consensus. To me, that's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Were you nervous at all?
I was nervous for sure. I was nervous. But yeah, that was like a year ago. I know it's like, I know it's like only a year ago, but to me, a year ago is like a lifetime ago. I changed so much every week that it's like, yeah, now it's like, if I were to do the same thing, I would just be like, not numb to it, but I would not be nervous at all.
Yeah. Did you meet any famous people while you were there? Did you bump into anyone famous?
Well, not like dignitaries, more like YouTubers. They invited some social influencers there. My friend Taryn, who has made the first AI pop album, and Taryn Southern, and a couple others, but like I don't remember their names. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're nearly to the end of 2018. So looking back over 2018, any highlights?
I would say one highlight is the Dean application process going successfully. Mm-hmm. And then also, what else? I taught a few courses, decentralized apps and Move 37. That feels kind of, it's like good. It's like not like amazing. What would be amazing? Well, it's like a real highlight. It's probably like just figuring out it's weird. Like I was living in it's weird. Like earlier this year, I was living in Amsterdam and I was engaged and I was like in a completely, and now it's like I'm single. I'm in LA and it's like, so it's like a lot of changes, but a highlight would be just the fact that School of AI continues to grow and nothing has blocked that so far.
That's good. And plans for 2019? What excites you most about next year?
So I have this thing, and this will probably be a good bit of a life hack for your viewers. But I have this thing where I never talk about what my plans are more than a week in advance because like I want the dopamine to hit of me actually doing it rather than, like if I were to tweet like, hey, I have a music video coming out or whatever, I'll get like some dopamine from that. Like people like it. I haven't even done it yet. So it's like, and so that what that does is that makes me less likely to actually do it. I found. So it's like these specific plans I want to keep close to the chest, but in terms of the broad idea to continue to grow the brand School of AI and to have more instructors on board and to just have more partners. I think it'd be cool to partner with more organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and maybe Khan Academy. So those that kind of thing really excites me.
Obviously, you do so many videos. How do you keep on top of things?
I get this question a lot from my audience, and it's like,
right.
But it's not just me. It's like I've seen a lot of interviews of Elon Musk. He gets asked this. I'm not like comparing myself to him. I guess I am. So I see a lot of these questions like asked to Elon Musk, like, how are you doing this? Like Joe Rogan's podcast, like, how are you? It's like he just puts in the hours, right? It's just that's what it is. It's just like putting in the hours. It's like, I make other sacrifices. Like I'm not like I work on the weekends. It's not like, I'm like off on Saturday and Sunday. I'm always in some way working, even if I'm like socializing, I'm still thinking about the School of AI and what I can do for the School of AI. And I never feel, it's a good and bad thing, but I never feel like I'm doing enough for my audience, for the School of AI, for my students. I'm never feeling like I'm doing enough. So I'm very self-critical, but that's a good and bad thing, right? Because it results in this kind of output. So it's definitely not easy. It's a lot of time sacrifice, but yeah, putting in the hours is what it is. Like besides like basic, sleep, eat, and, like sustaining life kind of things, it's like, how can I use all of my brain power and everything that I am to grow this brand?
Excellent. And talking of YouTube, then, do you have any advice for our listeners if they want to do their own YouTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, so consistency is key. So that's number one. You got to just keep outputting videos, and then hopefully the algorithm picks up on that, and you gain some traction. Another piece of advice would be to be open to any and all feedback and try not to take it personally. Just look at it from a very business perspective. And obviously it's fun, but it's also like you got to be serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So those are two things: consistency, be open to feedback, and try to focus on a topic that is not being touched on enough. You know, that's how you bring real value to the world.
I'm interested in know how you actually got into web development.
I think that, so when I hear web development, to me, that's like, at this point, it's like, you can make a personal website you can build a website without coding. Yeah. So it's like personal websites, like services like Weebly and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So what got me into computer science was when I was couch surfing in Europe, and I stayed with this guy in London, Alex McCaw, who ended up writing the book on JavaScript, like the O'Reilly book. But at the time, he was just there, and we were just like chatting up about the possibilities of programming and, you know, all the cool things you could do, all the impact you can have. And at the time, the money you could make, because that mattered to me a lot. And I think just meeting him it set me on a path to get into computer science. And then from there, kind of experimented with web and mobile and different technologies, robotics, the GPU programming. It's kind of like a very broad spectrum, cybersecurity, before I ended up with AI.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Can you remember the first thing you built?
Yeah, it was like Hello World. It was a Hello World application.
Okay. Good stuff. Excellent. Yeah. Any advice for listeners who want to become a developer or learn web development or any kind of development?
I would say, I'm trying not to state the obvious. Subscribe to my channel, because that's one way. What else is there? Which I just said. What else is there? There's like,
use Google. I don't know, Stack Overflow.
Yeah, I mean, like, what are the non-obvious answers to that? That those are two good ones, of course. But like Quora, like, you know, social media is actually, it can be a great educational resource. Like Reddit can be great actually for learning, and so can Twitter. Facebook, not so much. Even Facebook. I mean, it's weird for me to even say this, but like Facebook groups, there's like some value in the groups feature.
Coding schools as props.
Coding schools as well. Never pay.
Okay.
Never pay. Don't pay for a coding school. You know,
they seem quite popular though.
Sure. No, they are. I mean, so what we are doing at School of AI is we are trying to build the best educational content around AI, machine learning, these technologies. And the goal is to do that across the entire spectrum of AI and ML and computer science. So we hope that we can provide the same resources, but for free. And that way you never have to pay. And I think right now, it is now possible to learn literally anything in computer science for free. There's GitHub curriculums. There's a bunch of Khan Academy, a bunch of online free resources.
And any hobbies or interests?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question that you asked me right now. I like to rap. I like to rap. So, you know, we'll see more of that at some point. That's something I want to bring back. What else? Okay. I like to freestyle. And what else? I like Riz Ahmed. He's a MC.
From Star Wars, is he?
Yeah, Riz Ahmed's cool.
Okay.
What else? I like to play music. So I have a guitar. I like to play guitar. What else? I like to. Well, right now, I mean, I like going out with like, you know, one or two friends, and like, I think it's fun to like, you know, play the game in terms of like picking up, you know, people of the opposite sex and like, so there's some fun there. What else? I think
You mentioned traveling as well, couch surfing. Do you plan to do any more traveling? Any favorite places?
Yeah, I've really been like just saying no, like for the past 2 months to any kind of travel opportunity because I'm so like I need to take a break from traveling after traveling so much this year actually. So I'm like trying to stay local for a bit in LA, but I am going in January to Paris for this event. But that's it, and then I'll be back. Well, see, like if I'm going to go to Paris, I might as well go to India, and so. That's the thing. It's like, I'm going to go to Paris January 25th. And then like, I'm not promising anything, but like I'm thinking like, I'll go to like Mumbai from there and then stay there for like 2 days and then maybe Bangalore. I'm not sure. And then that's it. And then come back. So we'll see. But in terms of like travel as a hobby, yes, it's been a hobby. And who knows, maybe in 5 years, like I'll move to China, like who knows, right? It's like, I've kind of stopped thinking like there's going to be one place where I'm going to live for the rest of my life. It's like the internet, everything is changing so fast. Power structures are changing so fast. I would love to say I'm in 5 years moving to India because that's where, the kind of innovations are happening. And I hope to see that. And I actually reached out to the Indian government. It's like, let's have a meeting. Like, let's do something. So if anybody from the Indian government's watching or listening, like I will definitely help you guys out. Like let's make a plan. Let's make a plan. Definitely. Let's one up China and everybody else. Let's make India like the #1 AI spot in the world.
Definitely. Do you have any like books or blogs you want to recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, one book to read would be Kai-Fu Lee's book on AI Superpowers. That was definitely a big inspiration for my AI in China video. AI Superpowers was a very insightful book. What else? In terms of blogs, I don't. Oh, you know what? Andrew Trask has a great blog on cryptography and the intersection of cryptography and AI, which I think is really interesting, especially with GDPR and all the data regulations that are happening. So I think, we need to keep up to date with that. And, it's weird because I made a video on that recently and there wasn't that much interest. But that's a problem because, it's a career skill to have, like learning these privacy techniques. They're only going to become more important in the coming months as more of these regulations are enacted globally. So that's one. And then the last one would be, I would say not really a book or resource, but just like take a step back, after this podcast, if you're listening to this, I want you to, turn off everything and just like be alone for a bit. Like try to be alone. Like there's a lot of value in just being alone and being kind of bored with your thoughts because that's where the real ideas and sensations come in. Like not a lot of really smart people don't take the time to ask themselves, why are they doing what they're doing? Like they're really smart people. They don't. And it's a really crucial skill to have because if you take some time to be introspective and like really like focus on your own thoughts and feelings and sensations, it will be so much easier to define a life path and also define happiness on your own terms. So that would be something that I can say.
Are you happy now then?
I would say I'm happy. Yeah. I would say I'm happy and fulfilled. Two separate, distinct, independent things, happy and fulfilled right now for sure. But, I definitely could see. Yeah, it's almost like I'm too happy and fulfilled. Like I'm kind of bored now. Like it's like I'm not struggling as much as I was like last month or the month before that. So that's like the default state of mind that I'm in. So it's like, I was telling my parents this. Was like, I'm used to like struggle. Like this is weird. And they're like, just be appreciative that you are finally like you've got some things like settled and you're not struggling as much. But it's like I don't know. It's like it's hard for me to just relax. It's like the holidays are coming up in the West. This is considered a special time. for whatever reason, it's like people are supposed to be taking some time off right now, and for me, taking more than like 3 days off is like unfathomable. So, but yeah, I guess that's what keeps me happy, and yeah, overall, I'm happy and fulfilled. Yeah,
that's good stuff. In terms of development, then, what do you think is the main attribute to be a developer?
I think it's being able to control your emotions. That one's kind of out there. That's not one that anybody really says that I've heard, but it's like programming is really hard, and you're going to come upon a lot of roadblocks, and you're going to get angry. You're going to get frustrated because it's not working. And, you know, you can take that frustration and just decide to quit, or you can have a longer term plan and just kind of view it as a bump in the road, and to be able to center yourself and know that this is just, you know, one step in the longer journey. I think that's very important.
Okay, cool. Last two questions. I've got to ask you about changing your name.
Yeah, so I changed my name because when I was 18, or like not 18, but like 16, 17, like when I was growing up in Houston, I just felt like it would be easier to have like this anglicized Western name that was easier to pronounce for people. It wouldn't get as much, just like overall easier in general. I wanted that privilege of not being someone who is different ethnically, culturally. I wanted to be looked at as normal by people who I grew up with and in that culture. So yeah, that was why at the time.
Can you remember the name you tried to change it to?
Yeah, I changed it to Jason Scott Ravel. It's like the whitest name ever. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like an accountancy firm, that.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Okay, last question then.
I changed it back though, just to people who are listening to this. That this was like a whole thing of like rediscovering myself, my roots, and I legally changed it back to my birth name, Siraj.
Okay, last question. For people who want more information on you and your school, what must they do?
So go to YouTube, type in Siraj, Siraj, it'll be the first link. Hit subscribe, red subscribe button. And inside of my channel, you'll have links to the School of AI, you know, all of our videos, or you could so that's it. That's it.
Brilliant. Siraj, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
That's the end of the show. If you liked it, please leave a rating or review of the show. Just search for the Indian Startup Show on iTunes, Stitcher and Spotify. If you're building something exciting, please send me an email, hello@neilpatel.co, or tweet at Indian Startup SH, or go to facebook.com/Indian Startup Show. Love to connect. Thank you and goodbye.